let's talk about prostitution in prison. So I've seen staff sell themselves and I've seen prisoners sell themselves, and it almost always involves debt, addiction, or some kind of unhealthy relationship, though every now and then it's somebody just kind of going out and turning it into a hustle. So with the staff, it usually starts smaller. It usually starts with somebody doing favors or bringing in packages or doing something along those lines that leads to something else. The one I'm thinking of, she started bringing in packs for somebody. She was making a bunch of money, she would bring the pack in, the guy in prison and his connect on the street would pay her, like she was doing really well. And the problem, she got hooked on the product that she was bringing in. So instead of continuing to bring in the whole pack, she'd bring in part of it or she wouldn't bring it at all. And all of a sudden she owed money and she wanted more drugs and she didn't have it. So her solution was to prostitute herself inside the prison for this guy. So he's pimping her out to the other prisoners and he's getting the money, he's getting green dots or cash apps or whatever sent to him. And I guess in her mind, it's more money, like he's gonna get paid more because if she were selling herself on the street, it wouldn't be as much as guys in prison who don't have a lot of options and are willing to pay anything they can possibly do. And it was heartbreaking, and ultimately I say it was her solution or her decision. That's how it was portrayed, but it may not have been. She may have felt pressured, she may have felt coerced. I'm not justifying it or saying that it's okay. But at the same time, it's like the pack thing, right? Sometimes it's the officers coming in and being like, yo, I'm trying to make some money. Like, what are you trying to do? They go to a guy who they know is a huge drug dealer, who knows, everybody in the city, who has connections. And it makes sense because a lot of times the guards and the prisoners come from the same neighborhoods or from the same areas or even the same families. So sometimes they'll initiate that relationship, and other times it's, the guy's getting over on him. It's guys, saying, hey, yeah, do me a favor, or hey, I heard you had trouble, like, let me let my cousin go over there. And sometimes it can be like genuine things. I remember we had a guard who was messing with a guy's old girlfriend, and he was like, yo, you need to step away or I'm gonna do something. And he sent his boys on the street to go beat the guard up. And it's like, what do you do as a guard in this position? Like, this dude's homeboys all have guns and power and whatever on the street. Like, you can lock him up or give him a charge in there. Like, I guess you could try to get him indicted, but like, it was just a crazy situation. Now, prisoners prostituting themselves is usually, a simpler case. It's usually they don't have anything or they've run out of things. I think of a particular case where I knew a guy who, originally was kind of clean, or he just started dabbling, or just started doing a little bit, and then it picked up, as it often does. So at first he was just spending all his commissary money. He had a state job and he had a little hustle, so he would usually have food to eat or coffee to drink, or, he was doing okay. All of a sudden, every time he goes to the store, his food goes straight to the dope man. Like, everything he gets from commissary goes to the dope man. Then he starts selling steak trays. Anytime we have a good meal, he's selling that. And you're like, man, I wonder why he's losing weight. Like, why is he looking so hungry? Why are things looking so bad? Then he became desperate. He would do anything. He was washing people's drawers. He was doing like all these these favors or these hustles that are really not respectable. Like, in a way, they're just designed to break somebody down, because they figure if they can break him down through that, they can probably get him to do anything. And sure enough, next thing you know, he's selling himself. And he was selling himself to the dope man. And it's a crazy situation when you think about what that is. But those situations, again, almost always involve debt and addiction and being broken down. I think it's just really unfortunate. Now, I've seen some individuals in prison come in and advertise and be like, I asked the best dick, and like just crazy stuff, and say that that's what they're doing and that's their honest hustle, and in which case, I respect it. Like, my whole thing is I don't think somebody should be harmed in something. I don't think someone should ever be coerced into something. If that's their hustle and they want to do it and they've got paying customers, like, good for them. But it's just sad because what you end up with is this kind of transactional mindset. Like, prisoners see sex as something that has to be paid for or has to be gotten through deception or has to be gotten through force or coercion. Like, it's essentially building really, really unhealthy relationships and really unhealthy patterns in people that are going to be out again one day. Rather than kind of teaching people, all right, like, this is how, for example, they have like a parenting class, like Dad's Inc. They teach people how to be good parents, but they don't ever talk about how to be good partners, how to be good boyfriends, good husbands. And I think that's a skill that a lot of people need, because especially when they go in at 16, 17, 18 years old, they're surrounded by a group of guys who are equally immature and equally kind of, undeveloped as far as relationships. And then that's the mindset they have. They go, yo, I'm going to pay for it. I'm going to buy it. Or, yo, I can get her to do this. These incredibly unhealthy things, then leave with that mindset and continue to live that way. I think one of the best things we could do is have a class that's all about how to talk to women, how to be respectful, how to build relationships, how to build trust. And not everybody's going to do it, and some people are going to continue to take advantage or go on the outside. But I talked to a probation officer, a woman who works with the probation office out in California, and she said one of the number one things that gets guys locked back up, at least until she started running the program, was going out and saying crazy stuff to women, or going out and just directly propositioning women because they thought that was how it worked. Like, they had been in a system where that's what they learned. And so what she does and what she instructs the officers to do is to sit them down and talk to them, be like, look, this is not okay. You don't ever say that to a woman. Like, these are appropriate introductions. If you want to have this conversation, if you want to get into this, these are ways you can do that. And what they've done is they've reduced the number of people violating, reduced the number of people getting new charges. They've reduced all of the issues around that because guys genuinely don't know. Again, this is not a defense of somebody who would coerce somebody. It's a fact that people don't all come from the same home and the same environment. People are shaped by their environment. People are shaped by the forces that we don't want to admit. And unfortunately, the forces inside a prison are not for the better. Like, we're not building people up into better people. We're often locking the worst people together. And rather than allowing them to have the tools and the programs and the things they need to get better, we're essentially feeding, their worst impulses or feeding their worst habits by denying healthy access or healthy programming or healthy relationships or healthy everything else. So we have a system that often makes people worse than when they went in.